These are the adventures of Super Chick. I'm Cecelia Sterling, and I have a story to share. I have achieved a really big goal, and I'm really proud of myself, and I'm excited, and I want to thank myself for working so hard, but I want to thank you for adventuring with me. Your support has helped me achieve this goal, and I am grateful. Okay, so here's the story. I don't know, was it weeks, months ago? I was going through what I call the fear storm, stormy weather. I shared the story on our channel, and it was a fear storm all wrapped up with money and had to do with current experiences and the actual amount of money in my bank account that day. And then also past experiences that haven't totally been healed, right? And funny enough, it's tax season and we're about to file our taxes. So I've gone through a major tax audit in my past. It was traumatizing for me. Makes sense. I'm all triggered around money in the sense that now it's time to look at it again. And every year has similarities and some differences, right? But one of the funny things about taxes is it's this really great metaphor for life. So I had projected that I would have more revenue in 2022 than I actually did. So what that means is, while I hadn't done as well as I had hoped, meaning I'm now in the situation I'm in where I'm financially struggling, I actually have more money than I thought because of my overpayments. My prepayments were higher than they needed to be. That's the best way to describe that. Life is fascinating and a sense of humor is required. I wonder if there are any CPAs that are like also stand-up comedians. But anyway, as a result of all of this, I get a call from my CPA who says, you didn't make all of those prepayments because you're getting a refund. And I feel relief and I feel grateful. And I'm also a little like, I haven't received many refunds in my life because I have a Schedule C and I'm always making payments, right? But I'm going to receive a refund. And then he talks to me through the numbers. And I realize in this moment, on paper at least, I have now paid in full the balance due as a result from my IRS audit. I'm just going to give that a moment because the young woman who got audited thought that was impossible. So I'm going to give that a moment. And one of the ways I coped during the time I was going through the IRS audit is I would imagine how it would feel when I paid everything off and I was finished with this experience. Relief was one of the emotions I imagined feeling, joy, celebration, pride, and I'm feeling all of those feelings now. I would imagine myself like flying my girlfriends and I to some private island on a private jet, celebrating for a week that I'd paid off the IRS, or at least like throwing some like epic pool party or something. And while that's not happening, because I'm not exactly in the place to do that now, and perhaps wouldn't choose to anyway, I am going to honor that girl and celebrate this goal being achieved. And in a funny way, it's kind of a quiet moment because it's just a phone call where I've sort of accidentally overpaid and now I'm going to pay off the balance without making a choice about it or writing one significant last check. In fact, this summer, I reduced my monthly payment from the installment plan because I needed to not put out quite so much each month. And that meant delaying when I was going to pay this off in full. And I felt so much shame in doing that. Process was easy though. And I was grateful that they help you pay things off one step at a time, right? And some years were more flush than others. We're going to give ourselves grace. So much grace required. Okay, so I realize I've paid it off. I am definitely going to celebrate, and I call a girlfriend. And now this friend, in my opinion, we are very close because of this experience. And we didn't know each other while I was going through it, but she went through something similar. And it's not the fact that those things happen to us that we bond over. It's how we came to understand the tools we sort of cultivated from getting through these shared experiences, the resilience that we have in common. And we've really bonded over that, and it has helped us forge a really strong friendship. Perfect person to call. So I call her, I tell her I've achieved this huge goal, I explain what's happened, and she's like, we are going to celebrate. I said, yes, we are. And she says, I'm taking you and your daughter to lunch. Great. And we do sit by the water, which is a very luxurious experience for me always. We go to one of our favorite restaurants, we have a wine and some pizza, and it's divine. But when I get there, I mean, that's the plan, right? That we put that plan in, like, we almost don't even have to talk. We're just like, and we're going here, and this is what we're doing. Yes. Okay. Wednesday. So when I get to the restaurant, she has just texted me saying, I already have a table. So my daughter and I walk in, and the foyer, when you first walk in, there's a host station, and it's kind of a large foyer. So you don't like make eyes with the hostess immediately. I don't make eyes with the hostess immediately when I walk in. I walk in and I'm kind of about to move forward and just go to the table. But I don't see her immediately, and something about me pauses. I am paused. And it's one of those pauses that's very brief but kind of feels significant in some way, and I don't know that until now. So I pause. And the hostess comes over to me and greets me. And I say hello, and I tell her who I'm here to meet. And she says, oh, yes. And she references that this is a special lunch. And I say, yes, we're celebrating. And she says, what are you celebrating? And I, Cecelia Sterling, share to the world of my stories, clam up. And I become sort of rigid. And I start thinking about how I'm going to wrap up and title this celebration in an authentic way without sharing any personal information. Who am I? And I say, I've achieved a really big goal. And she says, oh, that's wonderful. What's the goal? By this time, we've been walking to the table, and now we've arrived at the table. My daughter is clung to my leg, not like her at all, probably because I'm all clammed up energetically. So there's sort of an organic reason not to answer her question in this moment, because now I'm saying hello to my friend, and she showed us the table, and here's the menu, da, 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 da. We, like, again, organically shift out of that moment. But now I'm about to sit down. I've got my daughter in her seat. And I'm like, peeled her off of me. It was so odd. And I look at the hostess, and she's still standing there, and she just says, don't clam up. Please don't keep it to yourself. What are you celebrating? What's the goal? And it's like, she's not going away. And her way of doing that broke my wall. It's a thin shell. I don't usually put one up, right? And it's kind of like I take a breath and I go, we're doing this. I'm going to share. Well, years ago, I went through a very extensive tax audit. And I want to qualify that by saying, when I spoke to several different accountants about what was going on, because I was looking for help, they all said, wow, this is worst case scenario. Just to qualify it. And I've just paid off in full the balance due that was a result of those years of audits. And she looks at me with her hands here and says, there's no way for you to know how important it was that you just shared that with me. And I own then that I am part of this world, and our stories and how we get through what we get through serves others. And it's important that we share. And it was okay that I wasn't ready to share a moment ago, and it's really important that I share. And so I did, right? Like, things changed around to a point where I could. And a couple things happened in this moment. I get to realize that I have so much guilt and shame around money that I literally still feel ashamed that I was audited by the IRS. And I feel shame, like it's wrong to talk about money. And I feel ashamed that I don't have enough money. Now, knowing that I'm enough as I am, I have some things to heal and some limiting beliefs to shift. I'll talk about that again another day. But in this beautiful moment of sharing, this woman thanks me for reminding her. And this is my interpretation. There might be something in here I don't know anything about, because she doesn't tell me her perspective in this moment, which is okay. But I paid off a balance that I used to think was impossible to pay off. But I did it one step at a time, and gathered some really incredible coping skills and gifts and resilience along the way. And then she says, her gift back to me is, it's funny, my aunt was audited by the IRS. She immediately pops my shame bubble. She's like, oh, I know somebody who was audited by the IRS. And she says, it's funny because when she went in, apparently there are these levels of like to what extent your IRS audit will be. And she said they told her hers was a level 10. And that was the highest level. And I just immediately started laughing. And I thought, I kind of like next level as a phrase. So if someone had told me my audit was level 10, maybe it wouldn't have invoked so much fear in me. Of course, I'm saying that now, hindsight, right? Having gotten through it. And maybe that woman wouldn't have been as triggered by worst case scenario audit. Why did we get those titles? Right? And I just kind of laugh, and she's like, oh yeah, and she got through it. And so the fact that I was audited, no big deal to her, knew someone else who apparently had the same level of audit as me. It was her aunt. She got through it too. And then she says again, thank you so much for sharing. You have no idea how important it was for me to hear this today. And my daughter and girlfriend and I go on to celebrate and talk about how important all the things are that we do, and how we have often so little awareness of the role that we're playing, the gifts that are on their way to us, the support that we'll have when we need it. We will achieve our goals. We're walking toward them as they're walking toward us. We may need to grow and expand in order to do that, and there will be things that come into our lives to support us growing and expanding in order to get to the very place that we want to get to. And sometimes it's really hard. And with that, I'll say ciao for now. I'm Cecelia Sterling, and these are the adventures of Super Chick.